Joining me now here on the Rich Eisen Show in his usual Monday spot, the host of the Green Light Podcast, two-time Super Bowl champ, Chris Long, back here on the show. How are you, Chris?
I'm good, man. How are you?
Great. What a weekend. I mean, what an incredible weekend of sports. And let's just dive right into it. What do you think of when you watch Josh Allen play football, Chris?
Honestly, we were just talking about it. I don't know if there's a guy, and maybe it was the guy on the other sideline, that I trust as much as Josh Allen getting the ball, needing a touchdown at the end of a football game. By the way, great drive to finish a half, and then great drive to finish the game. I mean, on the road, guys at Arrowhead are getting jumps that are crazy. There's dudes in the backfield before the ball snaps. So it's so loud. Like, I was at that playoff game last year, that 100-point playoff game, and it was just electric. You can't appreciate it watching TV. And for Josh to do that, and for me, watching that game, not really having a doubt in my mind that he's going to go get 6, it's just the guy's incredible. Because a lot of times in situations like that, when you have 4 downs, you have to get conversions. People get bogged down because the pass rush collapses, the pocket collapses, they lose sight, everybody's covered. And Josh, he's got that option to extend every play, and not just to throw, to tuck it and run for 40 yards. And it's like Cam Newton, like on steroids, man. I've never seen anything like it. It's a lot of fun to watch. And that game's awesome, too. I got a hot take for you. I'm way more into a 24-20 game than I am like 47-41.
Huh. Okay.
That was fun for me, watching those two teams have to figure it out offensively a little bit. Every possession is more important.
Yeah, I agree. Rather than just a shootout where it looks like, 2 8-year-olds hopped up on a bag of Skittles playing a video game, like I agree with you, like this game. And I thought it was neat as well that this rematch of that shootout began with 2 red zone turnovers, one by each quarterback, 1 fumble, 1 interception, and that there was a struggle. It was just 10 points being scored in the first half of that game till we saw a little bit of what we saw last year, which was the last 2 minutes having quite a bit of action within it. And I'll be honest, here's another hot take for you, and this is the way I kind of open the show here. Maybe the team that could best beat the Bills isn't in the NFC. It was the team that they played yesterday. Maybe that's it. And would you agree with that?
Maybe so. I mean, the Eagles are real good, and it was like we got to see the best of the AFC, and then we got to roll right into the best of the NFC with the Eagles. And I'm really impressed with Buffalo's defense. That for me is they can play a whole different brand of football. I mean, they've always had a pretty good defense, but it seems like this year it's really coming together. Adding Von Miller, who obviously forces a field goal, then he sacks him to get him off the field, and then the last possession flushes Mahomes out, and you know the rest with the pick. I mean, like, adding that piece is huge. Matt Milano is legitimately one of the. I mean, he's got to be the most fun off-ball linebacker in the league to watch right now. He just makes difficult plays look so routine, whether it's a tackle in the flat or, coverage. He's just all over the field. Up at BC, they got a conveyor belt of these just football machines. You went from Kuechly to this dude. He's so fun, man. He's a great player, and that defense is really fun. First level, second level, third level, the safeties. Really good team.
No doubt about it. And Chris Long here on the Rich Eisen Show. And watching the Eagles come up with that huge fourth quarter drive to quelch the Cowboys' comeback and then make that pick of Cooper Rush to end the game, if not the Cooper Rush quarterback controversy conversation that's been going on for about a month. It was incredibly impressive, and they are the best team in the NFC, no question about it. But it just led me to think, what happens if they do face a team that they can't run the ball on? What's going to happen then? Do you have any concerns on that front, Chris Long?
No, I mean, I don't know who that team would be. I mean, there's some tough teams out there up front and everything, but the Eagles can give you so many looks. And look at the way they came into the game last night and game plan for Parsons, which, has been kind of a big deal has been made about it. But a lot of the first half, keeping him off balance, and sometimes a player who, and I don't think I can count on one hand the players that I've seen since I came in the league and have been retired defensively that had instincts like Micah Parsons. Like, his instincts are so great. He's so good reacting. He's obviously a brilliant player, and that defense is probably more complicated than we know. But when you make any great player have to stop his feet, widen his base to start a play and stand in space and think about a QB pull or A.J. Brown coming across the formation, as they did early with him. And he probably should have blown A.J. Brown up, because that's what we're kind of coached to do on those, little shallow crosses across the formation. They are they're giving you a lot of looks, defender, and not to mention you have guys that can at least survive against Micah Parsons, and I believe the best right tackle in the game, maybe the best tackle in the game right now, with Trent Williams out, is Lane Johnson. So they got Mailata back last night. You lost Lane in the second half with a concussion. Things got a little hairy for him. But I think Hurts, Sanders, Gainwell running the ball on that one drive, like, even their run game isn't one-dimensional. So they do a lot. And for a defense to react to everything they can throw at you, it's kind of scary. And Jalen Hurts, man, he's got it. I mean, like, he just has this it factor. I trust him. I think he's a brilliant cat. And I think he says and does all the right things. And he just seems like the ultimate team guy. So this is a team that's playing with a lot of resolve, a lot of juice. I don't know where their big challenge is going to be coming up. I mean, inevitably teams get complacent. There's a bad matchup, but they're going to be favored in every game. And that Christmas showdown for against the Cowboys is going to be crazy. And if you're the Cowboys, honestly, you got a second half to hang your hat on.
No doubt.
They're going to be talking about, hey, we played better in that second half. We got things under control. We're going to get Dak back. It's the perfect segue, right? Cooper Rush not being able to have enough to beat the team that you have to beat, because you don't have to beat the Rams. You don't have to beat, any of these other teams that they've been playing the last 4 or 5 weeks. You have to beat the Eagles. And they've got Lions at home. They got the Bears at home, and then they got a bye week. So the Cowboys have a chance to really round into form in the second half of this season. They got to feel good about that second matchup. I mean, there were things on tape there that they can definitely hang their hat on.
Chris Long here on the Rich Eisen Show in his usual Monday spot. So let's talk about the rest of the NFC, because you just mentioned how the Eagles know they don't have to beat the Rams in order to get where they want to go. And you could throw both Bay teams in there now. Green Bay getting spanked by the Jets, and then Tampa losing a game in Pittsburgh that one would think they should have easily won. Now, obviously, it's easy to say that from your couch or from this desk. Yeah. But my question for you about that Tampa loss in Pittsburgh involves Brady, and you're a former teammate of his. And the one thing that you could never question about Tom Brady, one of the many, there's many things, is him being a beloved teammate. And watching him bark at his offensive line yesterday, Chris, I couldn't help but think, is there at all in your thought process anybody on that team, any of those offensive linemen that would look back at him and say, you went to Bob Kraft's wedding, you weren't at the walkthrough, and you're going to come at me? I mean, is that possible? That could creep into any thoughts of any of his teammates?
I'm sure it could creep into somebody's thoughts, because people have, like, really weak thoughts when they're not playing well.
Right.
But, like, I'm not caping for Brady. Like, I probably wouldn't have gone there. Like, but I'm not Tom Brady. There's different rules for different people on a Friday night. He's the GOAT. And, like, if I'm Tom, or if I'm defending Tom, I'd probably say, well, like, good luck, running out there with a different quarterback under center. I mean, like, this is who you got. He's the GOAT. There's a lot of issues with this team, and Tom Brady's not the issue. Okay. Like, I think if you look at Tampa, they got whooped up front inside yesterday. They got whooped when they got in the red zone. Cam Hayward was a beast. Ogunjobi was a beast. They were dominated in certain short yardage situations, and they don't have people to throw the ball to, man. Like, and I said this before the season, there's a thin line between having an embarrassment of riches on paper for the Bucs. They're trying to roll out. They got Julio Jones. They have Mike Evans. They have, Gage. They have some tight ends. Like, they brought in Kyle Rudolph. So on paper, like, there's activity. Like, don't confuse activity with progress, because in free agency what they did is they added some pieces that, like, Julio hasn't been healthy. You could have seen that coming, right? Gage is not the guy you want to be throwing to 2 out of 3 times when you got to have it in the red zone, right? You miss Gronk. The interior offensive line was not supposed to be this banged up. This is a roster that if it were at full strength, they'd be better off, but I don't know if they have the horses to keep up this year. I just don't, and their defense is going to keep them in it, and Tom's going to keep them in it. I think they'll look back at this game, and it'll be a blip on the radar, and they'll be in the playoffs, but they just don't have that top gear that they've had in the past, and you can relate it to Tom not being at camp. You can relate it to Tom going to Robert Kraft's surprise wedding, which I think is a cool move. Like, hey, come to my party, surprise I'm getting married. Don't make a big deal about it. But I think the problem is with the way this roster is constructed this year. You know, the standard that they're trying to meet, it's going to be hard to meet it with the way this roster is constructed. And I got to tip my cap to Mitch Trubisky yesterday, because he comes in the game, Pickett gets drilled, Trubisky, 3rd and 15, converts. Gives the team a lot of confidence there right off the bat. He converted like a 3rd and 13. He had a 3rd and 10 plus with 3 minutes to go to Claypool. He had, a 3rd and 11 that he picked up basically with his wheels late in that game to ice it. Mitch Trubisky, for a guy who's kind of been, his approval rating hasn't always been real high, and people wanted Pickett. It had to feel good for him to come in and secure that win.
Well, that's why I wanted to ask you about Brady, Chris, because I had that notion that I posited to you moments ago placed into my Twitter timeline by multiple people yesterday. And that's the one thing that would genuinely concern me, is if suddenly Tampa, anybody on that team looks at Tom as they're starting to lose, and there's that winning deodorant is not being sprayed enough. And Atlanta's now got the same record as them, even though they beat Atlanta just last week. I'm wondering if any of those doubts could possibly creep into that locker room, Chris.
Sure. I mean, in some corner of the locker room, maybe there's somebody that's like, and maybe it's more. Maybe I'm out of touch on this thing, but I used to think like this, like, does Tom Brady give me a better chance to win than if he wasn't here? Right. Tom Brady gives me a better chance to win than if he wasn't here. Tom Brady could be any number of places right now. He could be on The Masked Singer. He could be in Santorini, Greece. He could be, he could be hosting, he could be replacing Blake Shelton on that show where they listen to people sing. Like, I don't know what it is. I don't watch TV, Rich.
It's The Voice. It's The Voice, Chris. It's called The Voice.
Yeah,
it's okay. Yeah.
But The Voice, he could be doing anything, bro. He could be in movies, and he's deciding to play football. Now, he missed a bit of camp. His personal life is his personal life. Obviously, there was a lot going on there, more than we knew. But this is a Friday night thing. Your owner gets married, and I bet you he knew he was getting married. I bet you if anybody knew that Robert Kraft was getting married on a Friday night, an hour flight away, or, whatever it was in a PJ, I don't think this is the end of the world. I think what sucks for the Bucs is they're not very good offensively. And for Tom Brady, in the red zone, they don't know who to throw the ball to. So it's that simple for me. I mean, if people start coming out on that team and saying, hey, we don't like our quarterback, I say, okay, well, petition for Blaine Gabbert then. Because, once they lock the doors in an NFL season, the gates are closed. You got who you got. And you got to be pretty glad you got this guy. I mean, the throws he made yesterday, they were up and down, but one of the throws he made was incredible. That ball to that tight end, he put it on Spillane's left ear in the middle of the field. It was one of the most incredible throws I saw all weekend. Ironically, the Rodgers throw to Lazard was amazing.
Yes.
And these are two guys who really, struggled with consistency offensively, and they're still making these top-end throws, man. So I think for those two guys, it's about what's going on with the offense. It's not them, and I'm not caping for these guys. It's the offense.
Chris Long here on the Rich Eisen Show. A few minutes left with the Green Light Podcast host. Get the Green Light Podcast where all podcasts can be acquired. The sports talk radio portion of our conversation has arrived, sir. The 5-1 team you believe in more, the Giants, the Vikings. Who is it?
The Vikings. The Vikings are pretty darn good, man. They're having fun. You got Kirk Cousins on the plane, putting he's got multiple chains on.
Yep.
He's one of the guys now, bro. He's no longer a QB. He's a football player, and that's a serious rite of passage for Kirk Cousins, because I feel like the book's always been on him is people always want more. His public approval rating has never matched his production, and you've wondered do his teammates love him? Is he magnetic? And, like winning cures everything. Like whatever concerns you have about Kirk Cousins, that head coach is doing a good job. They're doing a nice job on defense. Zadarius Smith had 10 pressures yesterday. That guy's, I think I read that he's costing Green Bay like 3 times more than he's costing Minnesota this year. So they're a good football team, man. They really are.
And then last one for you, Chris. My favorite moment of the weekend, okay? I mean, there's so many different snapshots you see in an NFL weekend, but it had to have been, I'm sure you saw it, the rookie Brendan Schooler of the Patriots getting a muffed punt and taking the football and walking it up to Belichick. And I say this respectfully, sort of like, a dog bringing, a killed rat that a bird, right, to his or her owner.
My dog doesn't bring rats. You live in where, like LA or New York? Yeah, you live in LA, right?
I'm from New York. I'm from New York City.
Yeah, you're thinking rats. I'm like,
I know. Okay.
Where I live, there's no rats.
I was gonna go gift like a little stuffy, but just seeing the rookie present the ball he had just acquired on special teams to Belichick and having the assistant try to head him off at the pass, but not get him there in time.
No, we don't do that. No. Like,
what did you think of that moment, man? What did you think of that? Yeah. Is that great?
I thought it was cool. And Bill, like, I was talking about this on the pod. Like, he's so charged up. He's like the world's biggest Jim Brown fan. So, like, when he goes to Cleveland, he wants to play well. And, like, obviously, as my co-host pointed out, there was also some Cleveland history with him.
Yes.
But I don't think he hates Cleveland like he hates the Jets. I think it's more about like he wants to show out when he goes there. Literally, he stopped the bus the one year I was there. We went to Cleveland. We stopped. He was just like, stop the bus. We got out and took like a class picture with the Jim Brown statue.
Is that right? Is that right?
Yeah, my man loves. He loves, like, I ranked him earlier. His favorite 3 things: the Naval Academy, Jim Brown, and lacrosse. And I think lacrosse might be because of Jim Brown. So this is a big deal for Bill. And he did stop. I got a confirmation from Devin McCourty. They stopped the statue again. So this is a big deal for Bill. My favorite thing of the weekend was Brandon Graham hitting Cooper Rush and ensuring that the millions of people with Eagles tickets got their money late Sunday night. And I was one of them. That was a huge play. It's just a big play for – he was a great teammate to me on the field. He continues to be a great teammate. So I love BG, man.
Who's on the pod this week for you? What do you got for me?
Shoot, man. We're living one day at a time this week, aren't we? Do we have anybody? Cowboy Reed? Are we? Oh, Michael Irvin. So I can't wait to gloat about.
All right.
And our friend, you're better friends with Mike, but I love that dude, man.
He's awesome. He is great.
Is he not one of the best?
He is. He was at my wedding. My wife had known him before I did. She invited him after running into him in the streets of New York City 2 days before the wedding. He said he would be there. He showed up in an electric blue tuxedo, sat on her side of the aisle. All my friends were like, what the hell is Michael Irvin doing at your wedding? He also spoke at my daughter's baby naming. You
had a baby naming?
We did have a baby naming, and he spoke there and spoke so brilliantly about fatherhood and family off the top of his head. He is truly one of my favorite people on planet Earth. And, just what stories?
You just never know, Rich, when you meet these Hall of Famers and, like, just really special people who could just walk right past you, step over you on the side of the street. Like,
he's the best.
He's just so down to earth and so cool. And when I was a young kid, before I was a Panthers fan, because the Panthers had when we moved to Virginia, when I was a young kid, we moved to Virginia. I became a Panthers fan. I was a big Cowboys fan from like years 1 to 11, 12.
All right.
And Michael Irvin was one of my favorite players. And so that always made a big impact on me as an adult, how cool and down to earth that guy was. The few times I've run into him, and he'll be on the show this week. I love that dude.
You're gonna love it. You're gonna love him, and he's fired up. I think he thinks he's getting Dak back this week. So do I. And it's the Lions and the Bears, and then a bye, and then Green Bay, which is a beatable team. It appears right now. So I think the Cowboys are in fine shape. Thanks for the time.
We need to talk about your Jets. Go Jets, man.
Well, you know what? I figured I was going to talk about it later in the show, and I need to keep hitting it. But that was one of the most satisfying wins I have witnessed as a Jet fan in a long time. That was a big-ass rite of passage. And then Sauce putting the cheese head on. was the type of flex that the Jets normally don't do because they don't really have the standing in which to do it. And
I don't think they're going to do that in New England. The great thing about Sauce doing that is they don't have to see that team again unless you see them in the Super Bowl.
That's true.
It's an insider tip. If you're gonna hot dog a team, you do it when they're not in your division. You don't have to see them in like November. So, but yeah, what a weekend, man! Look at us: Jets, Eagles, Michigan, and Virginia on a bye. So perfect weekend. All right.
Well said, sir. Well said. Thanks for the time as always, Chris. You're the best. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Rich.
Everybody check out Greenlight Podcast with Chris Long and Michael Irvin this week, right here on The Rich Eisen Show.